All right, guys, this is Can I Be Vulnerable here with your favorites,
BJ Williams.
Brandon Thomas, and we figured that we would just stop in today and discuss how we were doing. It's been some crazy times, and I think a lot of times expression can be key to kind of get through these and kind of navigate this thing. And I think I've got something that I kind of want to talk about, so I figured I would do it with my buddy BJ here.
Yeah.
And because we miss you, we figured we would share with you guys. So, how has it been getting back to life for you?
Oddly enough, my life didn't necessarily stop.
Ooh.
Because I was still working.
Okay.
Now, the only thing was like being around other people. That part stopped.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still out and about, and you know, I don't go out much, so bars and stuff, closing, didn't care. I don't really like crowds either, so that didn't bother me.
Right.
But travel though, I did that was one thing that because we had trips planned this year. So that was like, God dang, I can't travel. That was probably like the only thing where I was like, God dang it. So for me, again, life didn't necessarily stop. I was working. I was at the schools handing out food, you know,
right.
So I got, was out and about, got to see the sun a lot every day. So I was cool with that. So I can't say that I was literally in the house for months on end like a majority of people were.
Right. See, so for me, right, my jobs stopped. So I was literally in the house. And then we have the George Floyd situation. You know what I mean? Where right before then, people were starting to come outside a little bit more. So I was like going to go get food outside maybe like once a week. Mm-hmm. And then we went outside to like the protest. You know, and I protested a lot, and it was like a big thing for me because I felt like, although I don't really feel like I'm gonna see the change that we would love to see in my generation, right. I knew that for my kids, for my friends' kids, for the people that couldn't go out and protest, I felt like it was important for me to really be out there. So I went from 0 to 100, and literally, you know, when you're not working, you know, you don't have anything else to occupy your mind. There's
right.
There's nothing really new on TV. There's no sports to distract you. It's literally just these racial issues that you've been dealing with your whole life, and you kind of feel like they've come to a head. You know
right.
what I mean? And like
right,
you're dealing
right.
with this big stuff, and then you know, things start to change a little bit, and then life just kind of starts to like happen, you know what I mean, where more people are starting to go back to work. You know, as a creative, it's like getting back to that creative space.
Right.
And I'm sitting here looking like, okay, well, how do I get back to making a funny video and I'm upset? You know what I mean? Or when is it appropriate? Or like, and even as you're still waiting for these changes to happen, and you know you've experienced this before,
yeah.
So it's like, you know that the changes ain't gonna happen on Friday, you know. So it's like, at what point do you release your mind to creativity again, or to, I don't know, man.
We talked about this off camera, our mental gas tanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned, when can I be creative and when can I make something funny? Do it when you want.
Right.
Because we aren't going to see the changes in our generation. This is a long battle. You know
right.
I mean, this is before us. It'll
yes.
be after us.
Yes.
So we're just here adding our skill set to the good fight.
100%.
But you also got to have balance. You got to be able to get away.
Totally.
I know people talking about sports coming back. Is it inappropriate? I'm like, well, yeah, you can come back if y'all want, because it is a getaway. We need to be able to get away from this shit. Too much trauma porn and too much trauma is detrimental to you.
100%.
Go recharge, go watch the game, whatever it is that you do that occupies your time, that makes you happy, go do that, and then come back. The fight ain't going no damn way.
Yeah, that's okay.
And I put a lot of thought into that myself, and just having small conversations with people. You know, when is it appropriate to joke? It's always a good time for a damn joke if that's what you want to do. If you want to laugh to yourself, enjoy your damn laugh.
Totally.
So that was something for me, because I struggled with it for a minute too. Like, even when we were doing lives on CIBV, I was like, damn, I don't know if should we do the lives? Because it's a bunch of shit going on. But then ultimately I was like, you know what? Just for nothing else, just to be able to check in with the alumni is dope.
Right.
Just to see how they're doing.
You know what also I was dealing with? I think I was dealing with not asking myself how I was doing. I was just going through the motion. Get up, protest, get up, protest, get up, protest. You're on social media, and during that period, everything was George Floyd. Everything was Breonna Taylor. So literally, like, you're just ingesting this, like, injustice, you
Yes.
know what I mean, all day, and then you're like, man, I'm really upset, you know what I mean, or you feel away, and I think it's like a range of emotions.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
sad,
yeah,
it's upset, you know what I mean. There was some joy in there with connecting with friends, like being at a protest and seeing your homeboy across the street that you didn't expect to see,
Right.
and y'all both linked up on the same like vibe. I ran into a buddy of mine, Iman, and man, we ain't never hugged like that in life. And when I tell you I hugged that man something serious, because it was just like, it was dope, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's crazy.
For me, I went for like a week, maybe like 8 days. I was super depressed. Because I felt everything.
Right.
I was infuriated. I was angry. I was sad. But I was joyful. I was optimistic because all of the protests that were happening, like the
Right.
awareness that it brought to the people that wouldn't normally be, or that wouldn't normally pay attention to our plight, or they're now paying attention. I was like, that's super dope. But I was also angry too. Like, what the fuck took y'all so long? I felt everything, and I couldn't pinpoint it
Right.
at a specific time because it would change.
100%.
So that just threw me
100%.
for like maybe like 8 days. I was done. I couldn't specify anything to be able to take care of that.
Right.
You know, I have my coping skills, but I can't cope if I can't identify how the fuck I'm feeling.
Absolutely.
And then I got mad because I couldn't do it.
Absolutely.
And then finally, I don't know what I did. I
you
finally
just end up going to sleep.
yeah.
Just
Ate, went to sleep.
go to
I think
sleep.
one day I just woke up and I actually said it like, I feel everything, and that was like the start
Absolutely.
of me finally sorting through some things. And
Absolutely.
people were asking me like, "You're off," and I'm like, "I know, but I can't tell you
Absolutely.
how I feel because I don't know, because I feel every damn thing."
Totally. I relate to that on a billion different levels, because I remember like when the George Floyd thing happened. To this day, I haven't watched the full video, because for me, I'm like, the way that I am not, and I'm trying to figure out how to maintain my good name. The way that I'm not destroying the city is by not ingesting it.
Yeah.
I'm aware of what's going on, but if I take it in, it damages who I am. You know what I mean? Or it damages the way that my heart works and the way that my brain works.
Right.
So it's like I'm aware of everything that's going on, but I can't take it in, or else it puts me in a state of like, why am I not burning this thing to the floor?
Yeah.
Why am I not?
I will say, I protested twice. One was just to feel the energy of the city.
Right.
I needed that, but I am not a protester. To me, protesting, I personally don't feel like I am doing something for the cause. But I also know that protesting fucking works.
Yeah.
But I also know that we need to be able to fight this thing called oppression, systemic racism, oppression at all angles, because it attacks us at all angles.
Right.
So for me, I'm like, I'm out here, but I just don't feel like I'm doing something. And another thing that upset me was trying to figure out what I can do within my little power to help move us forward.
For me, I had a different take on the protesting, right? So that first protest we went to a protest together. Check the IG, you can see a little flick up. We had to represent. But that first protest, what happened was I ended up posting a video, and then because I was there, people felt encouraged to go out. Whereas on the news, you know what I mean, it's like tanks and people were getting blasted in the eye and the whole deal. So what happened was that people were afraid to go out. I took out at least 6, 7 new people. I took out at least, 10 people for their first time protesting. And for me, I realized that the protests were important because I had to show people what was really going on in the streets.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, even when I didn't feel, there was a 2-day period where I did 25 miles, just walking, because people were hitting me up at different points in the day where I was done, and they were like, no, like, I'm on my way. And I'm like, well, I won't let you walk alone. For me, again, it was different because it was showing people what is actually going on outside, off of your TV, off your Instagram, how much love and peace was out there. Obviously, the first day was a little bit muddy because the police were nervous, we were nervous, and that energy, I think, is what caused a lot of those collisions early on. But and I think that protests, even for the people that are out there for the wrong reasons, I felt like you still looked like a number of person that was out there.
Exactly.
Whether you did it to look like you was at Protest Coachella or whatever, whatever your vibe was, what you need to know is that you were counted, you know what I mean, as the 50,000, 20,000, 10,000 people outside. So shame on you.
I hope your Instagram got a lot of likes.
Look, but at the same time, you know what? Good for you, because you was outside.
Right.
So, it was a mixed bag, but for me, I feel like the protesting was important in terms of like seeing people that were on the same page. And I think it also gave a lot of light to who was actually in the fight. I've never seen this many white people for a black cause in my life, and I don't think many people have.
No,
ever.
I definitely haven't. I
You
did
know
not
what I
see
mean?
that coming.
And at all, and again, we did this in 2015, 2016. You know what I mean? We can name the name.
68.
We done did it at the same
43
park
in New York.
and for it to be white people taking on this problem too was special. You know what I mean? Because I realized that we're in a different group, a different race, a different genre of white folks, and it's like, yeah, man, when you start making stuff human rights, you know what I mean? Like human right issues, and like this is just inhumane, like this is just crazy. When you take the color off of it and you say, this thing is crazy.
Yeah.
Let's fix this. You know what I mean? Not this black problem is crazy, but this thing is crazy. Let's fix this. I think is when stuff starts to change, or when white people deem that it's time to change this for our friends. You know what I mean? Then look, I'm gonna take the change however it comes. You know what I mean? There is not a perfect way that I want it. There's not a perfect way to go about it. So I'm with whatever, and I'm with however we have to get it accomplished.
Yeah, as long as we get that shit done. I told you earlier, like I have mixed feelings about the white people being out there.
Totally.
Because again, that racism is their problem. We just are the victims of it.
Right.
It's not my issue. It's not up to me as a black man to solve racism. I didn't create it. I don't perpetuate it.
Right.
It's white people's problem. But because they did start it, and now they are, I just had mixed feelings about it.
Can I ask you a
showing
question?
the hell up. Where the fuck you been?
Did it make you like kind of nervous?
Yes.
Because it was like, for me, I felt uncomfortable in the beginning because it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In my mind, I knew what to expect. I had done this before. We've been in this problem before.
Right.
So I knew in my mind what I was walking into.
Yeah.
But for it to be something different, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, man, it's not just a few. We used to a couple. It's a lot of folks.
For me, it was, because I don't, be honest, cannot be vulnerable right now. I don't trust white people. And the track record as a whole never gave me reason to.
Totally.
The more that I learn, the more they have devious ways about doing things. Our shit gets co-opted.
Right.
The reason why this blew up was a perfect storm of pandemic, being on lockdown, a virus going around, and then all eyes happened to be on this one particular young man that was murdered for however many minutes that was, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, hold on, this ain't right.
Right.
Because before they could ignore it, they have a bunch of outlets to not be able to see our plight.
Right.
Throughout history, they have not deemed themselves to be trustworthy of things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And as I'm saying this, as I'm grouping it together, yes, white people, I have a million white friends. I love y'all. But as a group, as we're talking about this, your history shows you have devious ways about you in other cultures. It's called colonizing for a reason. You know what I mean? Like systemic racism for a reason. Chattel slave. That's all. Like those are the things that you guys perpetuated against other,
Right.
other peoples. So I was nervous at first, and I still am, because at some point, because the system is theirs, they can turn it off at any point and say, all right, well, we're done with it because we're good now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like this fight is going to be ongoing for us because we are black men. So yes, I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to keep my eye open, and I hope you guys still continue to fight the good fight with us, because again, racism is not our issue. We're the victims of racism. We didn't start it. We don't perpetuate it. Racism is something that you have to solve as a people. That's your burden, not ours. We just don't want to be fucking victims of that shit no more. So that was my feeling about seeing them at first. I'm happy they're there. Grateful, and everybody else too, Asians and the Hispanic, Latin community. I'm glad they're out there as well. But again, I was just nervous because it's normally just us, and I know how they operate. So I'm gonna keep my eye open, but please stick with the good fight. So that's my little vulnerability moment with talking about the others.
I think that is just that feeling of unsure, and I think it's just that for me it was just a feeling of everything, it always being this way, and then to see something like completely different, I'm like, oh. I actually made a video a couple weeks ago about an experience that I had at the first protest, and basically, you know, it was like a standoff where the cops were on one side of the street, the protests were on another side of the street, and the cops basically told us to stay over there, and there were some white folks at the protest, and the white folks started to go into the intersection. And I'm looking at them like, yo, like, what are you doing? Like, you're about to mess this up. And then I had the realization that they weren't scared. You know what I mean? They hadn't grown up scared. They didn't live in the same fear that I lived in being a black man, that I know if I cross that line or not, just being here I could die. If I cross that line, I up my chances. The closer I get, the more justifiable, you know, my life can be taken. So for them to, man, when I tell you they was frolicking, you know, it was really the initial reason, the first protest on Fairfax, why the cops started letting off the rubber pellets, because you know, the white folks, they were pushing the boundary, and it's just crazy because those kinds of things need to happen, but getting out of your phobia of the repercussions happening to you, you know what I mean? It's a mixed bag that I'll be dealing with for a long time.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It's like one of those things that it's like you want to happen, but you don't. I'm still sorting through it. My vulnerable moment, I'm still sorting through it completely because I don't know if it was right or wrong. Here's the big issue, right? Is for me, I don't know if these things are beneficial or counterproductive because I don't really know what the end goal looks like. I don't know what equality really looks like. I don't know what it looks like when it's achieved.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you if this makes sense to get in there.
Yeah.
Because in my mind and my experiences, they've been tainted in a way that I have accepted this life and just kind of the way it is, and I would love for it to be better in a million ways, but truly, if you ask me, what does it look like? I couldn't.
It's moving forward, and I'm speaking of the next few months, going into fall. What does the movement look like for you personally, and your involvement with it? What do you?
I know exactly what it is, right? So for me, the movement, like right now, immediately and moving forward, is continuing my support of justice for Breonna Taylor. So what happens from my experience in history, right, is that men get rights, and then 100 years later, women get rights. You know what I mean? Men get something, then 100 years later, women are allowed to do it. In this situation, I want all of it to come together. I do not want, you know, and there was even a situation, there was like a pride march where it was all Black Lives Matter. And I didn't love that because I felt like it was divisive from Black Lives Matter. I talked to a friend of mine who's a part of the community, and he was saying, yeah, but some people don't feel like that community
includes trans.
He was saying
trans,
exactly that they're different.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, in my mind, it's not different. You know what I mean? So it was just kind of exploring that. And for me, I think that black is black, and I want it, and I don't want women to be left behind. We got the George Floyd conviction coming soon, fingers crossed, and you know, and I want the same thing for Breonna Taylor. And I'm not okay with just George Floyd. I'm not okay with just men, you know what I mean, men getting justice for men and then women are behind. Absolutely not. Women do way too much. Black women, especially these women in general at these protests, went far too hard for this to be a men thing.
Yeah.
No, won't go for it.
Your society can't be well unless your women are well.
Yeah.
Specifically in the black community, we can't be good unless our women are good.
Absolutely.
And that's across the board, not even just police brutality. That's abuse from our women. I know those things went viral with throwing a young lady in the trash can and getting hit with a skateboard.
Right.
That shit is fucking trash.
That's just crazy.
That shit is fucking trash.
That's just
crazy. And I always try to bring it around, but I always say like, because the dude, you know, they got on the dude, and the dude was like, she was disrespectful. I'm like, but ask your mom if a nigga ever went upside her head.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure he said she was disrespectful.
Yeah.
Like, it's always my people are good, but I don't really give a fuck about y'all over there. And it's like, nah, that's not how this. It can't be this way.
100%.
It has to be like that black woman. I'm looking at a black woman right now. Walk dog. She gets all my protection. I don't know who the hell she is,
Right.
but she gets my protection automatic. You know what I mean? Because that's how it has to be. We cannot be well as our society if our women aren't well. So I'm unlearning my misogyny and shit, speaking up a little bit more. I've never been one of those niggas that let some shit slide anyway like that, but
Right.
making sure that the people that I hang with are speaking up.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it can't be Black Lives Matter when we're not protecting our women. So that's come up a lot, specifically for me moving forward. It's just more mental health, man. Making sure that my people are emotionally and mentally full and well enough to continue on the good fight.
Right.
We talked about this earlier, taking in all this trauma, taking in all this bad news and this negativity and all that. It weighs on you, and you get drained and you don't want to fight the fight no more. So for me, moving forward, you know, the next few months specifically, and then beyond that, would just be the mental health, man. Making sure my black people are cool.
100%.
We got some things that we working on. I got some things that I've been working on. BT's a part of it always. That could be game changing in how we do mental health and mental wellness. And you guys should be hearing about this actually relatively soon.
All right. Well, that was our little Can I Be Vulnerable recap.
Yeah, man, we've been on this for 2 years. It'll be 2 years in I guess July.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, 2 years in July, man. And we'll also, I don't know when, but you know, any gentlemen out there that want to tell their story,
100%.
we'd definitely love to have you on.
100%.
If not, we still got 53
Yeah, 52.
53 stories on Can I Be Vulnerable. I hope you
100%.
guys can spell. That's YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter.
Yeah.
We're no longer on Facebook. I don't use Facebook, so there's no CIBV on Facebook.
You don't need to be on Facebook.
Yeah, no, you don't need Facebook.
For your granddaddy.
But that's that, man. I'm BJ Williams, and
Brandon Thomas. We're up out of here, guys.
peace.